Hey guys, what is going on? This is Wrestlelamia, back with another episode. Dynamite promises lots of spills, thrills, and sick bumps as Sammy Guevara defends the TNT Championship against Scorpio Sky. Will the show live up to the hype? Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the 27th April edition of AEW's flagship show, as well as the latest wrestling news, including Jey Uso's tirade on law enforcement, Wardlow's mystery opponent revealed, COVID strikes WWE again, Randy Orton talks leaving WWE, and more. As always, Wrestlelamia won't recap the matches, but look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. The good. A spectacular start. Dax vs. Cash was a great match and a reflection of what the Owen Hart Cup should be, an athletic endeavor where wrestlers honor the late great star's memory by wrestling their hearts out. While it's inevitable that fans will see some heel chicanery during the tournament, this is professional wrestling, not ballet, this match showed how AEW isn't afraid to book face versus face matchups and do so without a convoluted storyline designed to make fans cheer one wrestler over the other. This was a brilliant battle between two friends that ended with a handshake and a clear winner, the fans. Wardlow levels up. Did Wardlow get a power-up? How else to explain the plus 10 agility points he showed tonight against Lance Archer? Wardlow looked like an incredible Hulk-sized version of Rey Mysterio when he hit a Hurricane Rana on the Murderhawk Monster along the way to a win. Seriously, if you can't see the potential star in him, we just can't be friends. Right now, Wardlow can do no wrong, and AEW is clearly capitalizing on this as fans wonder when someone will attack him when he's handcuffed and when he'll get his hands around MJF's weaselly neck. A Shida and Serena slobberknocker. Tonight's Philly street fight blew the roof off the Liacouras Center as Hikaru Shida and Serena Deeb pulled out all the stops to get the win. AEW has done a superb job building Deeb up as a brutal badass. The big question now is what AEW's endgame for Deeb is in terms of an opponent. Will she challenge Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's Championship or engage in a battle of the badass bitches against TNT champion Jade Cargill? While AEW seems to be hinting that Rosa is in Deeb's sights, Wrestlelamia is pumped at the thought of Deeb versus Cargill. Hometown Hero. Tonight's trios match between the Blackpool Combat Club and the Nightmare Factory was a good opportunity to put local hero Wheeler Yuta over, we won't mention what promotion would have jobbed him in his hometown, and continue the BCC's build-up as a rising power in AEW. The match was one step above a squash, but that didn't take away from the fantastic finish where Danielson and Moxley locked their opponents in their submission holds while Yuta covered Nick Comoroto for the win. Chris's cheeky spin. Chris Jericho continues to show he's not satisfied to rely on the past and he's always growing, as seen with the latest segment involving the Jericho Appreciation Society. Jericho's insistence that he and the JAS are sports entertainers, not wrestlers, is a hilarious dig at WWE, and Jericho leveled up by referring to AEW fans as the AEW Galaxy, a not-so-subtle dig at the WWE Universe. Jericho was in full chicken shit heel mode tonight as he told Eddie Kingston and his crew that he promised no physicality, only to lay the baby faces out in the parking lot. Jericho then went old school as he threw a fireball in Kingston's face, a sign that Jericho understands that some things in wrestling never get old. Return of Pac and Phoenix. Good news for Death Triangle fans as Pac and Phoenix return to help Penta Oscuro deal with the ever-formidable House of Black. The only downside to the return is that you never know when one of them is going to get injured. Let's hope they stay healthy, as Death Triangle vs. the House of Black has action blockbuster written all over it. The bad. Setting the bar too high? Wrestlelamia would have to go into major nitpick mode in order to find anything bad with tonight's Dynamite. AEW over-delivered, providing a solid show from start to finish that concluded with a Dynamite, no pun intended, ladder match. Perhaps the only thing that is bad is that shows like this show how good AEW TV can be. And while there's always the danger of burning fans out by trying to top the previous week's show, that's not an issue when you know the difference between hotshotting and using the same stars every week, which shouldn't be a problem in light of AEW's deep roster. There's no reason AEW can't book shows like this every week, and if it wants to grow its audience, it needs to do so every week, making Dynamite the proverbial must-see TV. This is even more the case with Rampage, which AEW books like its main event. Rampage is anything but destination viewing for all but the most diehard of AEW fans. The downright ugly. Nothing ugly, and there's plenty to look forward to as AEW's Double or Nothing pay-per-view draws nearer, and it uses the slow burn to build up its event. Jey Uso's Drunken Rant. More details are emerging about Jey Uso's 2021 DUI as TMZ Sports is reporting on new police video footage that has been released. You may recall Uso was pulled over last July after he allegedly sped and ran a red light. According to the TMZ Sports report, Uso went off on a police officer after the officer told him, "I'm hoping you beat it this time too," before administering a field sobriety test. Uso replied, "Are you serious? Why would you say that? It's all good." Apparently, it wasn't all good, as Uso reportedly said to another officer, "That's crazy, right? He didn't have to say that shit." When the officer replied, "The nice thing?" Uso went off, "The nice thing? Bro, you don't need to say the shit you're saying. I get it. I've been here. Let's do it." The law officer's implied remark on Uso's past DUI arrests didn't sit well, and Uso voiced his displeasure. "You're an asshole. You're the one that's worse. You made a remark you shouldn't have did." The cop responded, "I think you misunderstood, so I'm sorry. I was actually being nice, but I'm sorry." According to the TMZ report, Uso blew a .202 during his arrest and was charged with misdemeanor DUI. Thankfully for Uso, he was able to reach a no-contest plea and attended several court-mandated classes to fulfill the conditions of his plea. Do you think Jey Uso overreacted, or were the police out of line? Let us know in the comments below. Undertaker Son in WWE? Did you know the WWE was going to feature the Undertaker's son in a storyline? Turns out that the WWE had plans for a rivalry between the Phenom and his son before Taker's program with Edge. That is, until Triple H pulled out his golden shovel and buried the idea. First, Wrestlelamia has to note that the wrestler in mind wasn't the Undertaker's real-life son, but would have been a fictional relative, much like his kayfabe kin Kane. Former WWE writer Freddie Prinze commented on the storyline during his Wrestling with Freddie show, noting the WWE aired vignettes of developmental talent Hayde Vanson with the intention of Taker wrestling the new talent until his program with Edge began. However, everything fell apart during a production meeting. As Prinze recalls it, "We're all committed to this, or so we think, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Hunter says, 'Are we seriously going with this guy?' Vince goes, 'What do you mean? What's the problem?' And he says, 'He looks like he cuts my grass, man.' Vince laughed and literally all the air went out of the room. Everybody just went, 'No!' Prinze's spidey sense went off as he realized the idea he'd pitched was in danger. Vince laughs, and then Hunter laughs, and then Kevin Dunn laughs. You would have thought it was the best joke ever, so I'm like, 'Ah, man, we're dead. And Vince goes, 'All right, dump it.' And now it's just not your idea that's gone. Whatever, our ideas get crushed. Now I gotta go talk to homeboy, Vanson." And just like that, Hayde Vanson disappeared from WWE TV. Part of the problem may have been Vanson's size, as he was 6'1" compared to The Undertaker's 6'10", but listening to Vanson's promos, there was potential for a program with other wrestlers. Spoiler alert, Wardlow's mystery opponent revealed? Spoiler time, as rumors are circulating about who MJF has chosen as the next wrestler to try and defeat his former bodyguard Wardlow. If you watched last night's Dynamite, and if you haven't, you owe it to yourself to do so, MJF was seen in a backstage segment phoning someone about taking on Wardlow. Wrestling's Salt of the Earth remarked that the person is bigger and smarter than Wardlow, and ended the segment with, "And you can't teach that," a clear reference to former WWE superstar Big Cass, aka current Impact wrestler W. Morrissey, unless Cass's tag team partner Enzo has had a sudden growth spurt. While Morrissey is currently working in Impact, Wrestling News' Paul Davis noted, "For what it's worth, there was a report several months ago about Morrissey's contract with Impact Wrestling expiring. It's possible that he is a free agent, but has continued to work with Impact on a handshake per-date deal." Morrissey vs. Wardlow could be a great program, and AEW may want to consider holding off on Wardlow pinning him. Do you think Morrissey will be Wardlow's next opponent? What about the big man serving as MJF's new bodyguard? Let us know in the comments below. WWE stars absent due to COVID? Is the WWE suffering another COVID outbreak? While it would be a stretch to say it's dealing with an outbreak, Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio that the company does have at least 2 superstars who are out of action. There's actually a few WWE people who were out due to COVID in the last couple of weeks, at least a couple. AEW World Champion Hangman Adam Page missed the 27th April Dynamite due to COVID, while Wrestling News Andrew Ravens reports New Japan star Will Ospreay couldn't participate in the promotion's 24th April event. Randy Orton talks leaving WWE. Last but not least, 14-time World Champion Randy Orton recently celebrated 20 years in WWE and talked to WWE's The Bump about whether he'll leave the WWE when his contract expires. "I think I'm going to be a WWE guy for the rest of my life," said Orton. "I've got a contract coming up in a couple of years, but I plan on not untying my boots for the last time until I'm well into my 50s. How could you stop?" Orton acknowledged his body may have something to say about when he actually retires. "When my neck or my back or my knee or my shoulder are gonna say, 'You've gotta stop, no more for you, young man,' I don't know when that is. So it's funny, but I would love for it to play out to where, say, on my 50th birthday." Like Kane, Randy Orton has managed to avoid the injury bug for much of his career, so it'll be fascinating to see how much longer the Viper wrestles. Well guys, there you have it, WrestleLamia's look at the 27th April edition of Dynamite, including the good, the bad, and the downright ugly, as well as the latest wrestling news and rumors you need to know. What did you think of tonight's show? Be sure to leave your comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time for some more wrestling content.